The opinions expressed are those of the participants and do not necessarily reflect the official positions of the sponsors, advertisers, or presenters. Advertising does not imply endorsement by the sponsors and presenters.
Hey guys, welcome to this week's episode of the Lighting Controls Podcast. We have a fantastic episode. We have Zach Mix from Parspec here today, and we're going to chat about software and how they can make your lives easier. Just want to take a minute to remind everyone that this show is presented by the LCA, the Lighting Controls Association, and financially supported by NAILD, the National Association of Innovative Lighting Distributors. And now over to Webster about this week's sponsor.
Thanks, Ron, and I want to thank our sponsor for this episode, Mick Wong. They're an award-winning pioneer in Bluetooth mesh controls with a very comprehensive DLC-certified product offering. They've been in the business for over 30 years, providing innovative quality and great service for their projects. They really provide some awesome solutions for your lighting controls out there. Definitely check them out, mcwong.com. That's MCWONG.com. They're ready to help you out for any kind of project that you have, code compliance or above. And they're a North American-based team. So if you're really trying to stick in North America with your companies, definitely check them out. They're a really great solution.
Thanks, Webster. And now, here's Zach. Hey guys, and welcome back to the Lighting Controls Podcast, where we just love to talk about lighting controls. I'm flying solo this week without Webster, and we're going to have a fantastic conversation with Zach. Zach, can you tell me a little bit about who you are and what you do?
Yeah, sure. Thanks, Ron. Great to have be on the show today. I really appreciate you having me. So my name is Zach Mix. I currently work for Parspec, which is a software technology company. Today we're offering software for rep agents and distributors across the country. They use our service to save 50 to 80% of their time when it comes to generating submittal packages for commercial projects. So today our service is really focused around that. But previously I've spent some other time in the lighting industry working for some manufacturers, as well as a rep agency too in your history.
Very cool. Okay, so tell me more about Parsec, right? Obviously, we focus a lot on controls here, right? But I did some digging into you guys a little bit and sort of some of your offering. So you focus a lot on being able to assist clients with submittals and speeding up their time. So are you guys solely focused within the lighting industry?
Yeah, so today our software is really optimized for lighting material, lighting controls, and electrical products and components. We started with lighting because of the complexity of lighting and also the speed at which lighting technology changes, the rate at which manufacturers are launching new products. As lighting manufacturers come out with new products every several months in some cases. Maybe the lifetime of a product is a little bit longer than that. But with LED technology, it changed the game completely, right? And documentation was updated, as soon as new product was available. You have configurations changing every few months from some of the major manufacturers. So our solution is really meant to help bridge that gap of when a manufacturer comes out with a new product or has an update to a data sheet to indicate to our user base that information is now available and accessible at their fingertips. Today we have, we support over 1,600 lighting and electrical manufacturers in our system, which gives our users over 1.5 million data sheets at their fingertips for them to use when they're specifying projects, quoting projects, or putting together, submittals or O&M documentation as well.
So where are you pulling all that data from? So, that first of all sounds amazing to me so you guys provide a sort of a sole location where you can pull all of your manufacturer's data sheets and submittal paperwork without having to go to each vendor's website or wherever to pull that documentation. So where are you guys sourcing all that data from?
Yeah, so that information is coming directly from the manufacturer websites. So we use the process of robotic process automation. In other words, we train code to visit these manufacturer websites every 14 days. So it's as if somebody was visiting the site, taking a look at the site, and it looks for new PDFs or updated PDFs, data sheets specifically today, and then downloads those, stores them at our own internal database. If for any reason, our system doesn't find a data sheet, which does happen a very small percentage of time, we allow for a user to manually upload a hyperlink or a PDF so that that document is then associated to their account and accessible to their entire team moving forward.
Interesting. So I'm sure you've had some conversations with the manufacturers about this. How do they feel about you guys providing this service?
Yeah, the manufacturers that we've talked to are encouraged by it. I mean, it's just another channel or medium for their customers to find product documentation, right? This only supports the sales process. We're not disrupting the process by any means. We're simply making it more efficient. The lighting industry, if new people come in to work for the lighting industry, there's an enormous learning curve trying to figure out all the product categories, the types of light sources. Lighting controls are even more complex. And so our tool can be used as a way to, again, bridge that educational gap on lighting material, to help people find products just based off of a part number, a description, a family or series name. So it's a pretty powerful search tool to be able to locate those product documents.
Nice. So is your search tool make it so versus like using Google to try and find the sheets, which as we all know does not always yield the best results, right? So are you guys able to sort of provide better results than you could just sort of on your own via Google or something?
As a matter of fact, an early user once said that Parspec is like a version of Google specifically for lighting companies. So it's funny that you mentioned that. And I've tested this out, but there's cases where you have like a really long string of part numbers. You drop that into a Google search and you get nothing in return. There's cases where you can populate that same part number in our system and it'll return a few options of a data sheet matching that criteria. So it's incredibly powerful. And then also to add to it, if we find a data sheet, you can actually select that data sheet and mark it up right inside our platform out of the box. You don't need to download it, open it up in some type of PDF viewer to mark that configuration up. And in most cases for, commercial projects, these submittal packages require, strict markup. Like you have to have the model number and the manufacturer clearly laid out and everything marked up, because if, there's problems down the line or if people need to reference supporting documentation for that project, it needs to be accurate. And if, there's probably some distributors and rep agents listening to this podcast, I imagine, some of those companies have gotten hit financially because of mistakes, right? So we are trying to help reduce or eliminate mistakes at the same time, so that, that you're not being charged for issues down the line, right? That everything is very clear. It's easy to manage, easy to revise and distribute.
So are you guys able to store multiple versions of the PDF? So do you guys, if someone searches for a specific part, and we all know drivers can change in a fixture fairly frequently, right? So as a manufacturer updates their data sheets, are you guys able to store those additional versions so that a user could go back and say, well, these are the fixtures I have on site. I need this copy of the data sheet.
Yeah, that's a great point. So because data sheets or product is being updated all the time, when our system does that search every 14 days and pulls new information in, it actually applies, a tag notifying you sort of when it was uploaded to the database, and we're still storing the historical records. And then we're applying an equation to it, like a ranking system. So if it's a new data sheet, it's going to be up near the top of the rank, if not the very first selection that users have. And then the other high ranking options of that data sheet will be commonly selected data sheets, right? So data sheets that are used a lot by your company or by Parspec users in general, right? So it's almost like a confidence meter, if you will. If users are selecting a data sheet very often, that is more than likely the correct data sheet. Or if there's a new version with a more recent date, then you're probably going to want to select that one. And then for historical projects, we're not just automatically changing those data sheets. We're keeping that record of what was specified, sold, and installed on that project, so that'll never change. That'll be saved in our system.
Yeah, and are you guys keeping those records sort of forever as long as people are using your service, or is there a period of time for that?
Yeah, so the if you have compiled a submittal, that PDF record will stay forever as long as you have an account. We will
Nice.
purge an old data sheet, usually like a full year after there's a new version available, right? Because that data sheet is at that point obsolete, and the manufacturer probably does not want people specifying that anymore. But for historical submittals, that record will still be tied to those packages.
Okay, yeah, that makes sense because some of these
Yeah,
projects, as I'm sure you're
yeah,
aware, can drag
yeah.
on for a few years, right? And sometimes you need to go back and reference that data, so it's important
Yeah,
to
yeah,
have.
definitely. Definitely. I mean, some of the, just to talk about some of like the core pillars of Parspec, like what we're trying to help do for the industry. And I thought this
Yes.
was I want to mention it, but I thought it was interesting that like on your website you said that open dialogues, better documentation, and standards are the key to
Mhm.
being sure that each designer, engineer, contractor, and end user has a positive experience with their lighting controls. Like we feel the same way. I think we are striving for that as well. Better documentation, better communication, and so our pillars are number one, instant access to product documentation broadly across all lighting products and controls. Secondly, more seamless collaboration within the companies that are using our system, as well as with project stakeholders on those projects. Because as you know, a lot of communication is done over email and attachments, and
Mhm.
there's not a lot of work taking place in the cloud like other industries. And so we're trying to usher that in to the lighting industry, getting people working on projects and moving them along quicker so that they can meet project deadlines and not be behind. And then
Nice.
lastly,
So
we're trying to help. Yeah, go ahead.
no, no, go ahead. No, go ahead.
I was just going to
Continue.
say, and then the last component is to just help automate repetitive processes or like rule based
Yeah.
tasks. And,
Yep.
if we do all of that, we're helping save these companies time, which equates to dollar savings, right? You can be more
Sure.
competitive. Yeah.
Yep. So, not being as familiar with your platform, are you able to email from within the platform, right? So, are you able to compile your package and then send it out from your platform so that you can have that sort of tracking and historical data within there? Or is that then you have to download it and send it yourself?
Yeah, so we don't have email functionality. You can't email directly out of our platform, but you can share a link. So if you've ever shared a Dropbox link or a Google
Yep.
Drive link, it works very similarly. You essentially, after you compile a shareable version of your submittal package, you would just share a link. It generates a unique link. You could password protect it or place restrictions on that link, and then you just simply paste it into an email and send it off to your client for review. The good thing is if you do that, if somebody views that file or if they download it, you actually get a notification that somebody has viewed or downloaded that file. So it creates accountability, which
Mhm.
sometimes there is a lack of accountability on projects. There's some finger pointing and time delays, and we're trying to avoid that. Yeah.
Yep, yep. So with with cut sheets, do you also pull down typical risers or typical wiring diagrams for either fixtures or control systems, or are you solely focused on sort of data sheets?
Yeah, that's a great question. And it does come up a lot from users because, you know, for submittal packages, in some cases, you need operations and maintenance manuals,
Hmm.
or they need to include
Yes.
those wiring diagrams, especially for lighting controls. It's even more important, right? That everything works together well. Today, we're primarily pulling data sheets. Um,
Okay.
but we do have plans to expand into other types of documentation as well. But the good news is if any user within a company or an account adds a wiring diagram, a warranty document, or some other supporting documentation, that creates a record in Parspec for that account. So if there's similar parts specified on a future project, uh, that document will actually show up in the search and can be selected moving forward. So again, it sort of ties back to the concept of like working smarter, not harder, right? Um,
Yep.
where if somebody used a certain wiring diagram for a lighting control device on a project, you'd want everyone else at your company to be able to leverage that knowledge or leverage that document in the future when that same product is specified. So that's
Yep. Yep.
our goal, is to help you work a bit smarter in that case.
Okay. So who is
Yeah.
your primary sort of target market? Are you looking at the reps? Are you looking directly at sort of, electricians? Where is your target market for this software?
Yeah, primarily today, the companies that use our software are manufacturer rep agents. They're
Mhm.
generating thousands of submittals per year,
Yep.
and then distributors as well. So, I mean, I could name off like we're working with Sonepar, Rexel, CED, Graybar, U.S. Electrical Services. On the rep agent side, we're working with companies like Sesco Lighting, Hosley Lighting and
Mhm.
Power, Pacific Lighting Systems. So we've got some really great customers that are getting a ton of value out of the service and providing feedback at the same time. So that's our target market primarily today. We do have some contractors using the service as well in
Mhm.
cases where they're generating their own submittals or they use it to organize documents that they're receiving. But you know, today it's those companies in our target market.
Okay. So most manufacturer or not manufacturers, most agents and reps like to have the same format every time they put together the submittal package. So it came
Yeah.
from them, right? Are
Yes. Yeah.
they able to upload and save that sort of template that they use, their logos and everything else, so that they can create everything within your platform?
Yeah, yeah. So when a company sets up an account, they can upload their logos, their branding, and they can have that automatically placed on the cover page, the table of contents, and then each individual data sheet. So it's branded to their company, right? There's nothing saying Parspec on that submittal. It's really about that company. Um, and we do also allow for like an upload of a custom cover sheet if they have a very particular format, and there
Hmm.
are some like toggleable options. In other words, you can choose to display certain information or not. So there's a lot of flexibility for what you can display, and it's actually, a reason why a lot of lighting and electrical distributors choose Parspec is because they don't have that consistency. They don't have, from branch to branch or location to location, they're generating submittals, but they all look different. The tools that
Yes.
they're
Yep.
using are different. The branding is different. So it's inconsistent. And distributors have chosen Parspec because they can turn that into, a consistent document that represents their company incredibly well. So that's very
Nice.
important.
Yeah, and it gives them, like you mentioned, it gives them the ability to upload those documents that they are going to use on a regular basis, and then across their divisions, they can all
Yeah,
find that information. Especially, like you said,
yeah,
warranty information, some of the things that are not always as easy to find on manufacturers' websites.
yeah. They're tough. I mean, to that point, I should say, most manufacturer websites have completely different locations where they store PDFs or
Yes.
or data sheets, and
Yeah.
I hear it often. It can be frustrating. Some people are doing it enough where they know exactly where those data sheets live, but others that are, less familiar have trouble just locating the right document. So that's another
Right.
reason why I think we add some value to those people too.
Okay. All
Yeah,
right. Awesome.
yeah,
So, tell me a little bit about yourself. How did you go
yeah,
from the lighting industry to doing this?
yeah. I love the question. It's sort of there's sort of like two answers there. Number one,
Okay.
I've always been interested in energy, like the energy
Yep.
industry, energy efficiency, because of course, like you want to maximize your the energy that you're using or consuming, and then lastly, new technology, right? And I think the lighting industry is sort of a really good blend of those
Mhm.
topics. And I knew, and the second part of it is I actually had some family in the industry. So my dad Jerry Mix and my uncle Steve Mix actually founded WattStopper back in the early '80s. So I sort
Mhm.
of grew up like going to, being around the industry, so to speak, like going to uh, like company events, getting exposure to the products like installed in our own household. I was a kid that would walk into our bathroom and sort of like be waving my hand around to turn the lights on, or the lights would go off in our room if we weren't sitting still, or if we were, not moving enough. So I
Yep.
just grew up around it, and sort of that helped me get a start working for WattStopper the first couple of years of my career back in 2010. And
Yep.
then uh, in that, after working there for a couple of years, I got introduced to the founder of a company called Green Creative. His name was Cole Zucker, and he and his business partner Guillaume Vidal were starting an LED lamp manufacturing company.
Yes.
And I got an opportunity to work for them pretty early on. I worked there for several years, which was a ton of fun. And it was a great opportunity just to learn, to meet with distributors, to sign on manufacturer rep agents and learn about their business, learn about what's important to contractors or energy service contractors, and just continuing that learning, right? So that's how I got into the lighting industry, I would say, and sort of my experience more recently. Yeah.
Yeah.
What about? Do you mind if
so
go ahead.
No, go. I'm just curious how did you transition from the lighting industry into sort of, I guess, a software?
Well, yeah, I mean, I've created submittals many times before. I've also spent a lot of time quoting projects and crossing projects or value engineering projects. And those are all time-consuming tasks. And when I got introduced to, the founder of Parspec, Forrest Flagger, and his business partner, Pertouche, they had some interesting technology being applied to like construction documents. And they wanted to start with lighting as their beachhead market and then move into other categories. And so there was just a good fit. I had experience working with distributors and manufacturer agents, and they thought that the software would fit in well as into their workflow as well. So I had an opportunity to, get interviewed there and ultimately sign on with Parspec back in September of 2021.
Okay. All right. Cool.
Yeah,
nice.
Yeah.
Very cool.
And it's sort of like back to the topic of like new technologies, right? And I actually think there's parallels between, say, lighting controls and what we're trying to do at Parspec. Lighting controls, you're trying to, maximize the performance for every, wattage of energy consumed, right? And we're trying to do the same. We're trying to maximize people's time and the efficiencies within their business related to lighting and lighting controls.
Sure.
So
and so
really
given that, how are you guys able to sort of track how much time you're able to save the average user? I think we all know, anyone who's put together a submittal package on their own knows how long it can take to pull all that information. So are you guys able to sort of track how long it takes through your system versus that and see how much time you're actually saving the average user?
Yeah, it's actually core to the value proposition, just the time savings. And we, in fact, have conducted case studies. We conducted a case study with Independent Electric Supply, a Sonopar company, CED. We've also conducted some case studies with Rexel and Graybar. And the findings that we've gotten through those interviews have been, on average, we're saving those distributors 50% of the time. So if a submittal took them, 4 hours, we're reducing that to 2 hours in some cases. For larger projects, we've even heard reports of, hey, this 150 line project took me a week previously. With Parspec, it took me less than a day, right? So even more than that in some cases, depending on the scope of the project. And then that ties back to a return on investment, right? Like if you're saving, anywhere from 25% to 80% of your time, there's a really strong payback or, return on investment for what it costs for you to, what Parspec service costs the customer.
Yep. That's awesome. And then you've talked about lighting and controls. Where are you guys going next? What's your next focus?
Yeah, I mentioned just a few minutes ago, like crossing projects over to represented lines or preferred lines. I think the next step that we're actively developing right now is an alternative recommendation system. So if as a distributor or a rep agent or even a specifier, if you just have like a general basis of design, bill of materials, and you're trying to find products that match those requirements, you'll be able to enter that fixture schedule to our system, and we'll try to match data sheets to those lines, right? So you can start to specify a project. Or if you're trying to find alternates, we could essentially search for manufacturers and products from those manufacturers that match similar attributes to the specified product. And then you can select from those options. So we're going to be applying that search capability based on like what is specified and what other options are out there. And I think,
Oh, that's
I'm
cool.
really excited about this because I mean, from your opinion, do you think having a service for alternates would be valuable?
Oh, absolutely. So I was just thinking about a bunch of stuff in my head. So we primarily, I'm a dealer, right? Dealer integrator. We do a lot with theatrical, architectural. So we don't get into a lot of these other lines. So I rely
Yeah.
on my reps fairly heavily when I need specific products. So the idea of being able to say that I need a exterior vapor tight fixture that can dim to 1% on 0 to 10, that's 3000 Kelvin, and you're going to give me a list of options is intriguing, because then I can go through and go, okay, well, I like manufacturer A and I like manufacturer B, and let me take a look at the aesthetics of their fixture and see if it's going to fit. Because a lot of times without the assistance of a rep or multiple reps, you're sort of on your own, right? You try and do that Google search, try and put that into Google and get a fixture back, right? It's not going to happen. And then, as much as I love all of my reps, at the same time, you're limited to the lines they carry. So
Right.
having a service like yours opens you up to additional fixtures and stuff beyond just what your rep or your average rep will carry, which is interesting.
Yeah, that's a great comment. And to take it one step deeper, if you're a rep agent and you have your line card, or if you're a distributor or a dealer like yourself and you have preferred vendors that you would rather
Mhm.
sell for whatever reasons you have, you'll be able to select those manufacturers and favorite them in our system. So the search will prioritize from that set of manufacturers, right? So if you're a rep agent, we don't want to surface data sheets that aren't on your line card. We're not really helping you in that case. We want to surface data
Right.
sheets that are on your line card that
Yes.
you can sell and get paid commission on. Or
Right.
and I'm excited about this because we hear a lot about lead time problems in the industry, prices
Yes.
going up, the need to be more competitive. When we talk
Yep.
lighting controls and fixtures, more efficient products or more sustainable or higher quality building materials, we want to be able to, help our users access that information, find products for whatever reasons they have more easily. And today it's really difficult.
Yeah. Yeah, it really is.
Yeah.
And so controls seem to change faster than fixtures do at this point, right? Fixtures, it's very often a driver changes or this or that. And it's usually a fairly small change within a fixture, unless it's a complete redesign, right? Whereas controls seem to go through constant changes. So how are you guys handling and battling that? And then not just that, but the various aspects of, how a controls project can be put together.
Yeah, so controls is it's an interesting topic because there's sort of a distinction between like SKU level controls like occupancy sensors or wall box dimmers or wall box
Mm-hmm.
sensors, and then there's like fully configured systems, right? So our system is a little bit limited when it comes to like fully configured specified systems. But when it comes to SKU level products, if there's any updates, our system recognizes that on the website, on the manufacturer sites, and then brings those data sheets in. So that you're always accessing the latest product documentation from, Lutron, WattStopper, Acuity, and all the other, many controls companies, right?
Yep. That's awesome. So do you break in? Are you guys solely focused on like the larger manufacturers, or do you break into the sort of, is it very much white light focused, or do you guys get into sort of color changing fixtures and the
Oh yeah,
architectural lines and stuff like that?
yeah. I think we add even more value the more complicated a manufacturer's like product breadth is, I would say.
Okay.
Because and I say that with solid state LED lighting, you don't just have a standard fixture, right? You have color tunable, you have
Mm-hmm.
white tunable, you have like even full spectrum when it comes to horticultural lighting, or
Mm-hmm.
switchable. And in some cases, like the specifier or the distributor rep agent doesn't necessarily know which exact fixture needs to be, selected there. So we're showing all the options from a family, so they can choose the one that is right for the project. If they need, a white tunable version because it's an office setting and the color temperature is going to automatically change, they can select that. But they also can see there's the full spectrum, there's the switchable, there's the standard models. So it's just
Awesome.
exposing them to everything that's out there, right?
So I'm just curious, as you go through and sort of build your project, as you build your submittals, do you guys look at the data of what the user is putting into that submittal package and sort of recommend a controls package, or sort of you might be interested, if you selected fixture A, you might be interested in accessory ABC. Do you guys offer something like that?
We don't, but I think it's an incredibly smart idea because when it comes, controls are
I
complicated,
get credit for that.
right? Yeah, exactly. But we're able to, in the next step of Parspec with the recommendation system or the product finder, we're able to extract attributes from the manufacturer website or datasheet, which tells you this has 0 to 10, it has dolly, it has just 120 volt forward phase capabilities. We should be able to help people find matching controls components that meet those same requirements or same specifications. But today, it's not something that's possible.
Yeah, so it'd
But I think
be
it's
cool to do that. And accessories as well, right? So let's say you pick a exterior color changing fixture, just because that's what I do a lot, right? So you say you pick an exterior color changing fixture from manufacturer A. If I select that fixture, do you guys have the ability to then say, okay, well, that fixture has, these various external optics and these this snoot and this louver, and do you recommend additional accessories, or is the user on their own to select all of that?
That's mainly driven by the user today. We're not recommending accessories yet, but we have laid out, a plan to remember like accessory associations to a primary part. So a good example of this could be like an area light, a street light, right? Like knowing that area light usually needs some type of pole. It needs like an adapter to mount that area light to a pole. And then you also need like a base plate and bolts. So if we remember that this area light had a, some type of arm associated to it, a pole and a cover plate and bolts, then if next time that same area light is specified in our system, we should be able to recognize those other string of accessories that were used with it. But again, that functionality is not available today, but it is something that we've laid out. Yeah.
Yeah, it'd be cool. I mean, right. I mean, a lot of times those specifics are specified, right? But it would be helpful. Like you said, you're all about trying to not only save the end user time, but also to make sure that they're putting together proper documentation. So if you're able to provide, hey, you're probably going to want A, B, and C with this fixture head, it's going to help them to go, oh yeah, right. I can't forget that I need that pole. Oh yes, I need that slip fitter, so that they don't forget those accessories.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's a really good goal to track to, for sure. Like it is something that we feel is important when it comes to that relationship of primary product to accessories or primary product to controls, right? So we're going to be tracking that eventually. It is important.
Nice. Okay. Yeah. All right. So give me the sales pitch. Why should people listening to the podcast, why should various reps and agents or whoever that don't use your service currently, why should they be looking at your service? Aside from the time savings that I think we've identified.
Yeah. So I have to just reiterate the time and dollar savings. Like that's important. I think business is a relentless pursuit to do things in a more simple manner for the same outcome, or to become more efficient for a greater outcome, right? So our system is one way to do that. Secondly, just having that access to product information at your fingertips, right? We talked about sort of the barrier to entry with lighting products, and it's almost impossible for any single person or company to stay ahead of the curve with all these new products and changes constantly happening. So we're trying to help just streamline that. Collaboration we talked about. So there's not a whole lot of collaborative tools today. Some systems that, you know, reps and distributors use, they have like a server on site. People have to literally be in the office, like on their, you know, wireless internet to actually even log into the system. So there's just antiquated processes. So we're moving that to the cloud, right? It's a cloud-based, web-based program, accessible to anyone with an internet connection and a login. And then, you know, automating steps, making people's lives easier, right? This is sort of a qualitative thing, but if someone comes to you and says, I'm not doing submittals after hours anymore, I was able to get my submittals done before 4:30 p.m. and I clocked out for the day. And I've had people tell me that they were spending, you know, putting their kids down to sleep, building a submittal package for a few hours, and then going to sleep at like 11. So quality of life can't be ignored, but it's harder to make a business case off of that. So those are some good reasons. And yeah, you know, we get that feedback from users, right? We track our like net promoter score, and I'm proud to say that, you know, we have a lot of promoters out there. And we're also like, people, they don't want to settle for status quo as well. They see what's happening in other industries. You know, you think about like, you know, Slack, where people are communicating seamlessly, or Teams, people are sharing documents seamlessly through chat functions, or what's happening with artificial intelligence and large language models, which is really exciting. And we're trying to bring that technology to the construction industry, which is often ignored, or there aren't really solutions catered towards, you know, our company's specific needs.
Nice. Yeah. All right. Interesting. It's very, very interesting. So who aside, we sort of established who your target markets are. Who are the people that maybe don't know that they should be using your service, right? Aside from rep, right? We talked about reps and agents.
Yeah.
What other sort of sneaky offerings do you guys have that, you know, somebody should be looking at that they're not aware of?
Yeah. So I love the question, and this is more abstract today because there's not as much of a defined use case, but I have talked to specifiers, lighting designers, and there is a use case where you could use Parspec to build your you know, specified product list. All you need is just some manufacturers in mind, some product categories, and you can use Parspec almost like a canvas. If you were a painter, for example, you're simply adding manufacturers in some type of description, and you're locating, you know, data sheets from that manufacturer, and then from there you can specify out the color, temperature, the length, the, you know, finish, everything that you want in that sort of annotation window. So you can very much use it as a starting point to a project as well. And I don't think that's well known. And we're trying to educate the market on the search capabilities. But I think as we add that product finder, an alternate product recommendation engine, we're going to find there are new use cases for the platform eventually.
See, I love that, because that goes back to what we were talking about earlier, that a designer can say, okay, I want a 4-inch downlight that's this color temperature that dims via this control protocol, and just get a list. And then they can go through and see, okay, you know, I like this one. I like this one. Ooh, that one's really pretty. Right. So I love that, because far too often, as you're aware, I'm sure, a lot of designers rely on either products they've used in the past solely, or their favorite reps. Right. And then, so there's this opens the door to a lot of maybe even smaller manufacturers potentially to have their products put on jobs that people may not be aware of, because having that comparison tool would allow people to sit there and go through a few different fixture types and see, oh, maybe that's one I hadn't considered before.
Yeah, exactly. You hit the nail on the head. And we welcome conversations with anybody related to lighting controls, electrical material. Even if there's people probably not listening to this podcast, but in, you know, mechanical or plumbing, those are other areas where we're happy to have a conversation and share what we're doing and maybe what we can build for those categories too. But
awesome.
Yeah, I think, when we have that product finder and alternate product recommendation system, I think that'll be really interesting to get that in front of specifiers.
No, so not to put you on the spot, but do you have any sort of an estimated lead time for that?
Uh, yeah, so it's actively being developed right now. The front end is very far along. The back end is being built, which is like the nuts and bolts and plumbing, so to speak,
Yep.
of the
Yep.
software. Uh, I Since this is a podcast, I'll be a bit conservative and say probably September timeframe. Around September is when
Okay.
our users could expect to take advantage of that.
All right. Well, that's not bad. That's still this year. That's not too
Yeah,
bad.
yeah. No, I mean we're moving quick. It's important to listen to your customers, build features that they want. Like that's the thing I enjoy the most is talking to people like yourself, talking to
Mm.
manufacturer agents, manufacturers, distributors, everybody in the whole supply chain to see what pains there are, what can we help solve, and there's a lot out there. And I think we've got some good next steps for the company and a strong roadmap past that too.
Nice. So for everyone who's been listening who might be now intrigued by your platform, is there
Yeah,
any sort of a free trial or a way they can sort of see how it all works? How does someone go about that?
yeah, definitely. We encourage a 14-day free trial for any company that wants to test the system out to see if there's value there. We usually host a training before that free trial, so that's something that we can always set up and facilitate. Get a full team on a call, walk them through how to create their first submittal, and then set them loose. And stay in touch to make sure that there is value there. And if they decide to move forward, it's a SaaS product, software as a service, and they can
Mhm.
sign up for monthly or annual plans for as many users as they want. It's really based on the number of submittals that their company is generating.
That's
Yeah.
awesome. I really like that. So we're just about out of time. So I just want to I would just want to wrap up real quick. So, based on everything we've talked about, it sounds like you guys have a very comprehensive and elaborate platform to really save users time in building their submittal packages and putting together that documentation. But then for larger firms who go across multiple states or regions, it allows them to really unify the way that they put their packages together. So everything that comes from Rep A is going to look really identical and the same. And then now, moving forward in just a few months, you guys are going to have this amazing search tool to provide additional value that'll allow you to see various manufacturers and do a search and even help designers in finding products they maybe hadn't considered in the past. Does that kind of cover a very high level of everything we sort of chatted about?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, that was a great pitch. You hit it right on the head. Yeah. Thanks for
Awesome.
summarizing that.
Yeah. Yeah, well, I'm excited to see where this goes. I'll definitely check it out some more. I'm very kind of curious, and I want to see this search when it comes out because that is like I said, we don't do a lot with like white lighting. We very much focus on color changing and the manufacturers we work with. So there's very often that I'm reaching out to various reps and agents to go, hey, I need X, I need Y. So I'd be very intrigued to see how your service could even work out for us. Not that it's something we would use every day like a
Yeah,
larger firm, but I
yeah.
still think there's some value there, and I'd be intrigued to try it out.
And I'd love to learn more about the manufacturers that you're primarily selling, and if we can build some support for them if we're not supporting them already.
Awesome. That sounds great. Well, yeah, we'll definitely keep in touch. Zach, thank you so much. This was a great conversation. I'm sure all of our listeners are going to get a ton out of it. And hopefully, you guys will get some increased revenue here and see some additional leads come in from the show. So I really appreciate your time. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thanks for having me, Ron, and the Lighting Controls podcast. Really appreciate it, and look forward to talking to people out there.
What a great conversation. Thanks so much, Zach. That was a fantastic conversation. I really can't wait to test out the software myself. And I hope all of you guys find some value in that as well and check it out. Just want to take that quick minute to remind everyone that the show is presented by the LCA, the Lighting Controls Association, and financially supported by NAIL, the National Association of Innovative Lighting Distributors.
And we also want to thank our sponsor, McWong, for this episode. They really provide an awesome solution for your lighting controls out there. They are Bluetooth mesh with award-winning products in their line. They have a comprehensive DLC certified products listing. They can really meet your code compliant needs or above. And because they're based in North America, they're ready to serve you during the hours that you're operating and ready to serve the projects that you're working on so that the customers can have a local source for information. They've been in the business for over 30 years, providing innovation, quality, and service, and definitely worth checking out. Check out mcwong.com, MCWONG.com for more information.
Thanks, Webster. Thank you guys all for watching and checking out this episode. And please do not forget to check out our website, lightingcontrolspodcast.com, where you can find all the sweet merch like we're wearing, the shirts, the hats, the coffee mugs, anything you guys could want. You can also find all of our past episodes. You can sign up for your favorite streaming platforms to get all of our episodes there. And don't forget to follow us on social media. Until next time, we'll see you guys soon.